Welcome at Pizza and More. Some time ago I showed already a recipe of an original Alsatian Flammkuchen. So it is an Alsatian Tarte Flambee. And in this, what I already showed, I made the dough with yeast. Yeah, I'm Jürgen and we make this time an original Alsatian Flammkuchen, so Alsatian Tarte Flambee without yeast in the dough. This recipe was sent by a viewer and I have to say again, thank you very much for sending over this recipe. I changed this recipe a little bit. Well, changed. I measured or I weighted the ingredients because the recipe had some tablespoons, the recipe had some teaspoons, but I think the size of a teaspoon, the size of a tablespoon is always a bit different. That's the reason why I used the balance and I had a look what's the weight of the tablespoons and of the teaspoons, and you will find in the recipe gram. The next thing I changed a bit was the amount of salt. I increased the amount of salt because I thought it is maybe a little bit less. So I increased the amount to 2%, which means 2% of the amount of flour is then salt. And I did this, the 2% is the normal percentage for salt from a normal bread dough. The recipe we made with yeast took far longer, as we had here a long leavening time of, I think we made 24 hours. And this recipe right now will be far quicker, as we have no yeast in the dough, which means, of course, we need some development time from the dough, but we need in some round about 2 to 3 hours. I'm going to use a normal flour out of the supermarket, so I have no special pizza flour or so. I use a flour from the type 550, which equals a Typo 0 flour, and this is an all-purpose flour. And I think the all-purpose flour has a bit more taste than the normal pastry flour. I will make the total classical toppings with a cream from Creme Fraiche. Then I use some bacon cubes, cutted onions and some cheese. I will bake the Alsatian Tarte Flambee in my pizza oven at around 300 degrees. If you have no pizza oven available, of course you can bake it also in the normal kitchen oven. And by the way, as in each other video as well, it's not required to note anything down because the whole recipe, the whole procedure will be in the video description. And the recipe for the other Alsatian Tarte Flambee with yeast is also in the video description. And now I would say we start directly with the dough. The ingredients we need is 500 grams of flour, 250 grams cold water, 35 grams of olive oil, 2 egg yolk and 10 grams of fine sea salt. For making the dough, we take it first a bowl, then we pour the water into it, the salt, the egg yolks and the olive oil, and then we take a whisk and mix everything up. Now we can add the first bit of flour, and we can still use the whisk, and then we can add the rest of the flour and mix or knead everything until we have a homogeneous dough. After 5 minutes kneading by hand and the dough is homogeneous, then please wrap the dough right now with a plastic foil or put it into a container or a box with a lid, close the lid And then we let rest the dough for around 30 minutes to 2 hours in the fridge. The dough was now in the fridge for around about 2 hours and the dough developed fantastically. And now it's time to create 3 identical dough balls. The dough didn't get bigger, but this is pretty clear because there is no yeast in the dough. But you can see that the gluten already developed fantastically, and this is when we see how elastic the dough is. Now I will create 3 dough balls, I think between 270 and 280 grams. Each dough ball has now a weight of 275 grams, and for shaping the balls we do exactly the same as with pizza balls. We pull all the dough from the side and push it towards the center. And if we have done it already and the surface is nice, then it could be okay already, but you also can put it on the counter and turn it here a bit and shape so nice dough balls. And then of course I put it into a dough ball box. When all dough balls are created, then of course it's important to close again the container to avoid that these dough balls dry out. If you don't have such a box, it doesn't matter. You also can leave it on the counter or take a baking tray, but of course you have to cover the dough balls, otherwise they will dry out. Now we let them rest again for 30 to 60 minutes at room temperature, simply that the dough gets relaxed, because we shaped now the dough balls and it's actually hard to make nice pies. And now you can use the time for preparing all the toppings. And of course you can preheat the oven. If you have a conventional kitchen oven, then please preheat this kitchen oven. If you have a pizza oven, you can also, like me, I will now preheat my pizza oven to round about 300 degrees. All toppings are prepared. The oven is preheated. The dough is prepared. I am prepared. And now we start with our Alsatian Tarte Flambee. To take this dough out, I do exactly the same as with a normal pizza dough. I use semolina, then I lift the dough out. We also have to be here careful and not to stress the dough, because the gluten is then also stressed and we can't shape this as well. Of course we don't have to take care about the air in the dough, because there is no air in the dough. We can start now pressing the dough with hand or by hand. And then we can use a roller pin. Of course we have to be a bit careful here that the dough doesn't stick onto the counter. This dough, I have the feeling, sticks a bit more than other dough, but it doesn't matter. Here I have Creme Fraiche. You could also mix the Creme Fraiche already with some salt and pepper, but I will use the pepper afterwards, and already the bacon has lots of salt in it, so we have to be a bit careful here on the toppings with salt and pepper. But you can, if you want, you can already put some herbs to the cream as well. As next, I will add some fresh grated black pepper. Then I add already the bacon. Then some onions. Then I have here some leftover spring onions, and I thought they fit as well, and I used them as well. And now it's prepared for the oven. To launch it onto the peel, we use also again some semolina, lift the pie, push the peel under, and it's time for the oven. And here comes our Alsatian Tarte Flambee out of the oven, and as last topping I add some fresh cutted cheese. And now I can taste it, and you can believe me, this smells so fantastic. At first, as always, I try the center. Oh, and the center tastes really good. And now I taste the crust. And also this crust tastes fantastic. I don't know, is this one made without yeast or the other one made with yeast, the real original one, but honestly, I don't care. Both are so delicious, both are so fantastic. I can't decide right now which one is the better one, which one I will make as next. Again, this with or this without yeast. Maybe one time this and the other time the next one. It doesn't matter, both are really, really very tasty. Yeah, if you like my video, it would be fantastic if you would subscribe my channel. And then we see us also in the next video. Ciao!